Daf Yomi Tractate Sanhedrin, page 65. A. Top of the page, starting a new Mishnah with Baal Ov. Baal Ov ze pitom hamedaber shechio. V'yidoni ze medaber piv harei elu v'skila v'nishal bahem be'azara. The list of those liable to be executed by stoning includes those who practice various types of sorcery. The Mishnah describes them. A necromancer is someone who suddenly starts speaking from his armpit, his or her armpit. The voice of the dead appears to speak. And a sorcerer is one from whose mouth the dead appears to speak. These, the necromancer and the sorcerer, are executed by stoning, and one who inquires about the future through them is in violation of a prohibition. Talmud. The Talmud says, Maish nahacha diktani bal ov v'yedoni, u'maish nagabi krisois diktani bal oiv v'share leyedoni. The Gemara asks, what is different here that the Mishnah teaches the halachot of both a necromancer and a sorcerer? And what is different in the tractate Kritot, 2a, that the Mishnah teaches the halacha of a necromancer but leaves out the halacha of a sorcerer? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Hoye Lushneim Belav Echad Nemru. Rabbi Yochanan says the Mishnah in tractate Kritot does not count a sorcerer separately in the list of those liable to receive karet, since both a necromancer and a sorcerer are stated in the Torah in one prohibition. Consequently, one who unwittingly serves as both a necromancer and a sorcerer is not obligated to bring two sin offerings, as would be one who transgressed two prohibitions punishable by karet. Reish Lakish Amar Yudoni Lefi She'ein Bo Ma'aseh. Reish Lakish says a sorcerer is not included in the list in tractate Kritot because his transgression does not involve an action. It involves only speech, and one does not bring a sin offering for transgressing a prohibition that does not involve an action. Rabbi Yochanan Ma'ishna Bal Ov Dinakat Mishum Dipatach Bekra. The Gemara asks, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, that a sorcerer is not listed because sorcery is included in the same prohibition as that of necromancy. What is different about a necromancer that the Mishnah uses specifically that example and not the example of a sorcerer? The Gemara answers the Mishnah chooses to mention the example of a necromancer because the verse introduces the prohibition with it. The case of a sorcerer is mentioned in the verse afterwards, see Deuteronomy 18:11. V'reish Lakish ma'itayma lo Amar Rabbi Yochanan Amar of Papa Chilukin hen b'mita. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason that Reish Lakish did not say an explanation in accordance with the explanation of Rabbi Yochanan? Rav Papa says Reish Lakish disagrees with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan because the cases of a necromancer and a sorcerer are divided in the verse with regard to the issue of the death penalty. Meaning, one is liable to receive the death penalty for each transgression. Consequently, one would be obligated to bring a separate sin offering for sorcery were it not for the fact that this transgression does not involve an action. Rabbi Yochanan Cheluka Delav Shma Cheluka Demita Lo shma chiluka. Rabbi Yochanan could respond that one cannot infer the number of sin offerings one is obligated to bring based on capital punishment. With regard to determining the number of sin offerings where there is a division of a prohibition, meaning when two acts are listed as two separate prohibitions, it is considered a division that leads to a separate sin offering. But where there is a division of a separate death penalty, in other words, when the death penalties are listed separately, it is not considered a division in this regard. V'Rabbi Yochanan ma'itaima lo amar karesh lakish, amar lach masnisin dekritot, Rabbi Akiva amar lo ba'inen ma'aseh. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason that Rabbi Yochanan did not say an explanation in accordance with the explanation of Reish Lakish that a sorcerer is not listed in Tractate Kritot because his transgression does not involve an action? The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan could have said to you that the Mishnah of Tractate Kritot is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that we do not require an action for one to be obligated to bring a sin offering. And Reish Lakish could have responded that although Rabbi Akiva does not require that one perform a significant action to be obligated to bring a sin offering, nevertheless, he does require that one perform at least a minor action. Sorcery, by contrast, involves no action. And therefore, even Rabbi Akiva would not deem one obligated to bring a sin offering for it. Megadef mai ma'aseika akimatze patav havibu aseh. The Gemara asks, in the case of a blasphemer, a euphemism as one who blesses God, what action is there? He merely speaks, and nevertheless Rabbi Akiva deems him obligated to bring a sin offering. Clearly, Rabbi Akiva maintains that no action is necessary at all. The Gemara answers, the twisting of his lips while he speaks is considered an action. Bal ov my ma'aseika hakashat zero otav havi ma'aseh. The Gemara asks, what action is there in the case of a necromancer? The Gemara answers, the striking of his arms against each other in order to create the sound of a voice is considered an action. The Gemara asks, and is this considered an action even according to the opinion of the rabbis, who require significant action for one to be obligated to bring a sin offering? Apparently, speaking isn't significant. That's what they're saying now. But isn't it taught in a Braita, one is liable for idol worship only for a matter that involves an action? For example, sacrificing an idolatrous offering, burning incense to an idol, and pouring a libation to an idol, and bowing to an idol. Amaresh lakish ma'etina ishtachavoy. Rabbi Akiva hid amar lo be'inan ma'aseh. Rabbi Yochanan amar afilu temu Rabbanan kefifat komato leRabbanan havi ma'aseh. Rish Lakish says, who is the Tana that who is taught bowing? Among these examples is Rabbi Akiva, who says, we do not require significant action for one to be liable. Any action is sufficient. And Rabbi Yochanan says, you may even say that the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, as the bending of one's height, according to the opinion of the rabbis, is considered a significant action. Hashta Reish Lakish כפיפת קומתו לרבן לא הבי מעשה, הקשת זרועויסב דבעל אויב הבי מעשה. Now consider if according to Rish Lakish, the bending of one's height is not considered a significant action according to the rabbis. Can a less noticeable action such as the striking of the necromancer's arms be considered a significant action? Ki kamar Rish Lakish non-miler v'kiva awol banan lo. The Gemara answers Rish Lakish concedes that according to the rabbis, the striking of the necromancer's arms is not considered a significant action. Rish Lakish says that it is considered an action. That statement is also in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, but according to the rabbis, it is not considered a significant action. The Gemara challenges, if so, that the rabbis hold that the transgression of a necromancer does not involve an action, then when stating in Tractate Krito 2a that if one unwittingly transgresses a prohibition for which one is liable to receive karet, if he transgresses it intentionally, he is obligated to bring a sin offering, excluding a blasphemer, and if he transgresses it unintentionally, right, he has to bring a sin offering, including a blasphemer, and he does not perform an action. The rabbis should have stated excluding a blasphemer and a necromancer, as they do not perform an action. Rather, Ula says the reason the rabbis do not state excluding a blasphemer and a necromancer is that when the Mishnah there lists the case of a necromancer, it is referring to one who burns incense to a demon in order to raise the dead, which is a significant action. Amar le Rava, Mikater le Shindalid, who El Amar Rava, Mikater le Chabar. Rava said to Ula, one who burns incense to a demon is an idol worshipper, which is already mentioned in the Mishnah in Kritot. Rather, Rava says the Mishnah there is referring to one who burns incense to the demons, not as a form of worship, but as a manner of sorcery, in order to gather the demons and to bring them into one place. Amar le'abaya mekatu lechavar, chover chaverhu. Abaya said, the one who burns incense to the demons in order to gather them is considered a charmer, whom the Torah relates to with a distinct prohibition. A distinct prohibition, see Deuteronomy 18:11, which is not punishable by karet. Are we holding time? Okay. Let's see here. Nice. Almost done. Ve'atorah amra chover zeskila. Rava responded, yes, such a person is also considered a charmer, but the Torah states that this particular charmer who gathers demons is included in the category of a necromancer, and therefore he is executed by stoning, and karet applies as well. The sages taught with regard to a charmer that the prohibition applies both to a gathering of large animals to one place and to a gathering of small animals into one place, and even to the gathering of snakes and scorpions. Amar Abaya Hilkach, Hai Mad Tzamid Zibura Ve'akraba Afal Gav Dekam Mechaven Delo Leziko Asor. Abaya says, therefore, with regard to this person who, through sorcery, gathers a hornet and a scorpion to harm each other, he is nevertheless prohibited from doing so, even if he intends to prevent them from harming him. Rabbi Yochanan, the Gemara asks Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that according to the rabbis, one is liable for bowing to an idol, but not for blaspheming. What is different between these cases, leading to the conclusion that the bending of one's height while bowing is considered an action according to the rabbis, but a blasphemer's twisting of his lips to speak is not considered an action. Amarava Shani Megadev Hoyel Yeshnu Lev. Rava says the case of a blasphemer is different, since this transgression is in the heart as well. The sin of blasphemy does not apply to speech alone, as the blasphemer's intention is central to the transgression. If he spoke without intention, he is not considered a blasphemer. Consequently, one is not obligated to bring a sin offering for such an action, as it is essentially a sin of the heart.